Welcome back. Now, the South African influencer industry is flourishing, with influencers making between 3,000 Rand and 18,000 Rand for a single post. While these figures look great on most bank accounts, Sars is eyeing these earnings and is ensuring that compliance becomes non-negotiable. And joining me to discuss the tax compliance issue in the industry is Vantage Advisory's Luncedo Mtwentwe. Luncedo, thanks so much for your time today. So, a booming industry that's not showing any signs of stopping. As we get started, just walk me through the numbers and how big this industry could get, let's say, in the next 5 years.
January, and Darlene, thank you for having me as well. Look, the South African influencer industry is growing, which is on par, of course, with our global counterparts. We are actually looking at the fact that the influencers are injecting or contributing closely to 500 million per annum in terms of their contribution to the economy. And I'm sure in the next 5 years we are looking at over R1 billion that is being contributed as a result of digital marketing, and of course traditional marketing, driven heavily by the influencers. And you have picked up that most now companies have started to really shift away as well from traditional advertising.
Yes.
They're starting to blend now digital marketing, and influencers are really driving that particular part of the segment in terms of the marketing. So it is something that most businesses have to look out for. It is something as well that the influencers as well, they have to start really taking themselves seriously in terms of treating themselves either as sole proprietors or as businesses.
So you mentioned, that big digital marketing pie and how big companies are now moving into digital marketing and using influencers for advertising products and their businesses. And obviously, influencers getting a fair share of that pie. And while they are growing their earnings, being tax compliant becomes more important, right? And I'm sure no one is willingly wanting to get on Sars's naughty list. What are some of the common mistakes that you're seeing among these influencers that's currently playing out?
One of the most important aspects as well, I think it's very important for the South African taxpayers to really understand that SARS, or South African Revenue Services, is not up there to get taxpayers.
Yes.
So SARS is really there just to implement and enforce the legislation, and their role, of course, is to really collect the taxes. Now, in terms of the South African Income Tax Act, it is up to the taxpayer that they need to declare all their income. And now we've started to pick up most of the time when we deal with taxpayers that the understanding thereof of sometimes what they need to declare, that awareness or that financial literacy is something that is actually missing. And therefore it's important that when you declare your income, if you are generating any other extra income or you are doing an additional business, that is something that you have to declare that to SARS. And most taxpayers sometimes, they usually only declare their salary that is taxed on a monthly basis, forgetting that even any other additional income that you have to declare. So some of the common and most fundamental mistakes is the fact that is the awareness of what you have to declare, the awareness that once you start to generate or have different sources of income, for instance, you become a provisional taxpayer. That means every 6 months you have to declare your taxes. And sometimes most people continue as influencers as well to really continue to trade using their personal name, forgetting that the moment you do that, under the eyes of SARS, you are now a sole proprietor. And as sole proprietor, then you are taxed now at a different level of tax rates that are out there, of which it can get up to over 40% or so. So those are some of the fundamental mistakes that you need to know how to structure your taxes, how to structure your income. If it means that you have to use the company, then rather do that, because the company is taxed at a fixed rate of 27%. It becomes even easier if you only have one company and you're generating less than 20 million, then the tax rates thereof, they become even way lesser because you are considered as a small business corporation. So financial literacy, understanding some of the tax basics, not as an expert, but tax basics, is something that we are picking up when we deal most of the time with the influencers that are coming to us.
You touched on something important there, and that is financial literacy. When it comes to this industry in particular, we're seeing a lot of young people entering the market. For example, when you look at TikTok, a number of creators there are under 21. How can, younger influencers then educate themselves about their tax obligations and financial, gain the financial know-how when it comes to influencing? Because most people are just seeing this as, some extra money in their pocket.
It's like a hobby. Everyone is doing this as a hobby.
Yeah.
Forgetting that, look, if you are a taxpayer, the moment you become a taxpayer in South Africa, you are taxed not only on the income that you're generating in South Africa. That's number one. Even if you're getting paid by an entity that is in Europe, you still have to declare such amount. Now, young people, they're very tech savvy. So we have to give credit to them in relation to that. Now, in terms of the financial literacy, it's very important that there are people that are tax professionals. And especially when it comes to tax, sometimes it's not an easy subject for people to understand. Now, it's very important that you reach out to tax practitioners, registered tax practitioners with the likes of SICA, for instance. Those are the people that will be able to really assist you and provide guidance in terms of how do you structure your income, how do you structure your savings, how do you structure your tax affairs. But again, most of the time, I want to say it's not even sometimes you go into the act and read the legislation. There are podcasts that are out there that you can learn in terms of what are some of the financial fundamentals that you need to be aware of once you start to trade. For instance, they can watch business shows like yours. We are talking about a very important element right now that does affect. So watching business news, watching podcasts, which, for instance, also run a podcast as well with Psycha. So all of that does help you to able to understand some of the basics in terms of what is expected of you from that particular side.
All right, Luncedo, we could talk about this forever. I guess one of the most important things to note is that Mr. Mtwentwe is not out to get you, but make sure you pay your tax. Thank you so much for your time and those insights. That was Luncedo Mtwentwe, Managing Director from Vantage Advisory.